Of eminent South African scientists recently said it was, and I quote, shockingly deplorable that South Africa still has not secured a COVID-19 vaccine. They also said it's distressing to hear senior officials talking down the usefulness of vaccines and the prospects of its availability in the country. So let's get the reaction to Health Minister Zweli Mkhize's plans to inoculate over 40 million people by the end of the year. The group's of scientists, Alex van der Heever, joins us now. Alex, very good morning to you. So it seems that they didn't really have a plan. They still don't have a plan. And suddenly now we have the promise of a vaccine by February. Is that feasible?
So firstly, it's not going to be feasible. I think it's very improbable given that they really haven't done the underlying work to get to that point. For us to have a vaccine available in February would require that we've got some commitments in terms of bilateral arrangements with manufacturers, and I don't believe that those have really reached any stage of maturity at this point. So it's entirely speculation that we would get access to a vaccine in February. That's not to say that we shouldn't have expected to have access to a vaccine from February, but because they only started looking at doing this in the last sort of month, instead of preparing from mid-year, we're basically placed in a very difficult position.
I mean, it is mind-boggling, isn't it? Tell us more about what you see as the challenges in securing a successful bilateral relationship. What is it that we need here in South Africa?
Well, we needed to, so first of all, we needed to have negotiated on with those companies that were going to prepare stock in the meantime prior to approval of their virus and prior to a sort of a test of efficacy and safety. So we needed to have that in place. So for instance, in the United States, they called their strategy warp speed, and they had the strategy from halfway through the year. We've had no speed. So for us to do that, we have to be speaking to the right people. We have to get prior commitments from the stock they're going to produce out of the initial production schedules. And that's if we were going to have vaccines in 2021. We probably will have access to reasonable amounts of vaccines in 2022, but that implies that we're going to spend 2021 in experiencing a number of surges as we're going through now. We're still going to go through the whole winter without a vaccine at this point.
All right, so because of government's ineptitude, more people will die. We'll probably pay more money than anybody else to secure the vaccine when we eventually get it. I'd like you to address some of the concerns. Obviously, we don't have a vaccine, but many viewers are telling us that they are frightened to have a vaccine. Should they be frightened? What should they be looking for if and when we eventually get it?
Yeah, I would have very little concern about the safety of the vaccines, provided that the analysis has been presented to South Africa's regulators. I think that the three main vaccines that have been approved thus far internationally do demonstrate that their safety is reasonable, and there's just some risk of anaphylaxis that's been shown in the case of the Pfizer vaccine. I'm not terribly worried about that. I'd be certainly very happy to have a vaccine myself, and I think it's absolutely essential for us to bring this epidemic to some sort of closure. So I think that although there are these conspiracy theories going around about vaccines and what governments around the world are trying to do, they are utter nonsense. It is our only strategy to pull ourselves out of this situation.
And does our vaccine need to look different to other countries, considering we've got a different variant? I mean, is that something that needs to be factored in?
Well, it doesn't look like that's the case at this point. So a different variant doesn't imply that it's not going to be addressed by the vaccine we've developed. There's no evidence to date that there's such that the mutation is so significant that the vaccine will not address it. So I'm not terribly worried about that. All the people looking at it at this point have said there's no evidence that is a risk at all. And by the way, just in terms of the cost of what we will access as a vaccine, various commitments have been made by companies such as AstraZeneca that they're going to charge on a cost-plus basis. They're not charging to make a profit. So South Africa, and these costs have been known for quite a while. It's unlikely that we will have to spend a great deal on the strategy. We just have to gain access to the doses. So I don't expect that should not be a barrier to our accessing sufficient supplies of vaccines.
Good. It seems that there are very little barriers other than us just getting it done. Alex, good to talk to you. Thank you.